Environment Minister Tanya Plibersek will push to extend the Murray-Darling Basin Plan past the 2024 deadline to fulfil its election commitment, which will see 450 gigalitres of water fed back into the basin system. She says she's concerned Labor is significantly behind on the commitment to complete the project on time and has sought advice from the Murray-Darling Basin Authority Chair, Angus Houston, on how best to navigate an extremely difficult deadline. Greens Senator and Environment spokeswoman Sarah Hanson-Young has criticised Labor's economic or environmental credentials after it recently approved 3 coal mines as well. Joining me live for reaction on this, Nationals MP Keith Pitt, who of course once upon a time was the Water Minister. Thank you for all your time. What have you made of this story today?
Tom, great to be with you. Minister formerly known as, I think is how it starts, mate. But I think for your viewers, 2,100 gigalitres has already been recovered. Now that's 2,100 times 1,000 megalitres, which is 1 million litres. It's an awful lot of water that's already been taken out of the system that has a direct impact on those economies. It's got a direct impact on the availability to build your business, to take risks, to grow more food. And the idea now that we've seen Minister Plibersek revert back to buybacks, which are incredibly damaging on those communities, well, I just think that's the wrong approach.
Well, the report into the scheme that Labor did once it came into office showed that of how much was supposed to be returned to the environment, environmental flows, 450 gigalitres, 2.5 gigalitres has been done. This was a mess they inherited, isn't it?
Oh, she's been a little bit cute with the figures, Tom. So when we shifted away from buybacks and went into infrastructure spend, effectively we put forward the opportunity for states in particular and other organisations to put up their projects. Projects will improve efficiencies without those damaging buybacks. And you are building infrastructure for the taxpayer's dollar. What you get in terms of efficiencies and water recovery are just an added-on benefit of that. That is the right approach. Now, the numbers on that varied between, from memory, close on 200 gigalitres that could come through that approach to 150. It shifts around depending on the projects and the assessment. But they are real, they are scientifically assessed, they are out there. Some of them are still moving forward. And in my view, that is still the right way to deal with this issue. You can't continue to damage those regional economies by taking away what is their lifeblood, and that is the water supply.
But isn't that what the delay aims to do, to give a bit more time to see what efficiencies can be found before the last resort of buybacks happens? I mean, this is what Labor's doing, isn't it?
Oh, well, I've seen the release from the National Irrigators Council and they've put forward their views. It is a big, complex system, Tom, from Queensland all the way to South Australia. But what I can guarantee is that the 450 gigalitres will not keep the Murray mouth open. You only have to look at what happened with nature, with the amount of water that's flooded through there in recent months and the past year. It took an enormous amount of water to stop dredging in the Murray mouth. We've got to be scientific about how we approach this. And I still think complementary measures and, of course, building infrastructure with efficiencies is the right approach. I mean, what is the point of putting more fish at one end and simply down the river a couple of k's, you've got an enormous amount of pumps which still don't have any fish protection on them? I mean, we've just got to be more sensible about this. The best people to talk to it about it are the local farmers and the producers. They've lived this for a very long period of time.
They're self-interested, though. The point is the health of the entire river system. If you talk to them, you know, with the greatest respect, I'm sure they're working hard. What they want is water allocations to make money for what they're doing.
Well, it's no surprise. That's how they employ people and pay the mortgage and keep a roof over their head. And I don't think any other Australian would be any different. It is about striking the right balance. And in my view, the Coalition's policies were the right balance between absolutely damaging buybacks and the ability to build infrastructure which lasts for decades. Keep in mind that these efficiency measures, particularly with the big irrigators and the big suppliers, make an enormous difference in the way that it's run, how many people are needed, how much is lost through seepage, for example, or evaporation. It is the right approach. The idea that you can destroy these communities simply because you think there's some environmental benefit, which may or may not come to the fore, is just the wrong way to do this. It is a complex issue. Right. Well, it does take a lot of detail and a lot of consultation.
It is complex. There are plenty with a view, including within the scientific field, that this would have a significant environmental benefit and it is needed. We're hitting El Nino as well, which will be dry for Australia. I do want to move on though. Reports this week your leader is facing an internal revolt. It's over a failure to lock in concessions or trade-off, if you like, with the Liberal Party in order for the Nats to do a deal on net zero, which I guess is in the hypothetical realm right now, but this was a deal done when you were in government. Do you have any issue with the way David Littleproud has handled this?
Tom, I read Monday's story with great interest. I actually had to ring Perrin Davey, the Deputy Leader, and ask who's on the Expenditure Review Committee for the opposition. I didn't know. So I had no idea whether they had a meeting or not. But this is a complex issue, and there are new members in the Nats party room, I'm sure, will have a view which might be a different view to others that came before them. But we've got to remember the impact in regional Australia. I mean, the commitment was to 2050. It wasn't to 2030 or 2027 or 2035. And we can see right now what impact that has on the Australian people simply through what the Labor Party is doing. They've legislated their commitments and their targets. They're doing everything they can to deliver what they've committed to. And the result is ever-increasing power prices. It's hard on cost of living. It's making life worse for more Australians. And I just think you need to take a better approach. So what about the question, though? Are you entirely comfortable with the approach that David Littleproud's taken in this area as leader? Well, we haven't got one yet. The election is still some time away. I'm sure there'll be a policy platform that's determined and is. Well, the reports where he took an idea that Peter Dutton thought wasn't quite a completed one, and he said, come back when you've got something a bit better together, but also that he asked for about half of the concessions, that the spending was $30 billion and now it might be more like $15 billion. Oh, mate, what do you want me to tell you? I'm not in the meeting. I didn't even know it occurred or who was in it. I've got no knowledge of it. But what I do know... But you read all this on Monday. I'm sure there's been conversations since. What did you make of... Did you clarify if that is the direction? Is that a direction... Would that sort of concession be fair enough? Well, the projects that were committed to when we were previously in government are incredibly important for the regions. They are big infrastructure projects that drive the economy and provide more opportunity for those that choose to live in the regions. And that is what the Nats are about. I don't think anyone should be surprised that we're looking to improve the outcome and the lot for the people that we represent. Now, whether it is big dams, stick with all of them. Pipelines... Well, I'd have to go back and look at what's not there. I can't answer that question, mate. I don't know. As I said, I'm not on the Shadow Expenditure Review Committee. I can't answer what may or may not have been proposed. But what I'm saying is that they are important projects. They need to be supported, and we put them there for very good reasons. Might finish with cricket. I'm sure you've been tuning in to the Ashes. Rishi Sunak's had a crack at the Australian team. Do you feel like firing back? He says we're not playing in the spirit of cricket. Oh, mate, I sort of stopped watching when they made Michael Clarke captain. I'm a Alan Border type in terms of my age, that hard, grumpy, hardcore, get out there and do what you need to type player. And look, I think the Australian team should be congratulated to do it without Mr Lyons after an injury at Lords in a very, very difficult contest. I mean, the rules are the rules. If the individual wasn't out, the umpires wouldn't have given him out. I think the reactions have been pretty much over the top. Congratulations to the Australian team. They deserve to win. So hang on, you say you're an Alan Border man. You wouldn't even watch Steve Waugh as captain? Mate, I watched through those, but, look, as a kid, I came through with Greg Chappell and Border, and they were hardcore and playing against the West Indies team that I think had 5 of the quickest bowlers in the world. Yeah, mate, I keep a bit of an eye on it, but, I watch the Boxing Day test and I watch some where I've got an opportunity, but I don't stay glued to the TV as much as I used to when I was younger. Fair enough. I think you're just trying to imply how busy you are there, Keith Pitt. Appreciate your time today. Talk soon.